So with ViziePop being behind both Hazbin Hotel, which is now on Amazon Prime Video, and again, congratulations to her on that, because that is a huge accomplishment for any indie animator to take their passion project, or at least one of them, and get it acknowledged and basically distributed by a major platform or a semi-major platform like A24 Studios and Prime Video, Amazon Prime. But like I said, ViziePop, who is behind that, as well as Helluva Boss, which is one of her other big projects that she's showcasing for free here on YouTube, and maybe potentially that gets picked up as well. One question I'm sure a lot of fans have been wanting, because there are elements, character designs and elements very similar to each other in both shows, and that is, will ViziePop, will Viv, if you will, consider doing a crossover between both shows? I mean, when you think about it, it definitely lends itself to potentially that happening, where you could, cross over all the characters. You could do that. I mean, the interactions between them would be great. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Luna interacting maybe with, let's say, Cherry Bomb would be, something, or even her, interacting with Vaggie, if you will, would be great. I mean, there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential out there of, what they could do. But then you might say, well, how is that possible? How would that be possible? The two different iterations of, the underworld, if you will, hell, or, the netherworld, whatever you want to call it. And that's true. That's true. They are two different interpretations, but it doesn't mean they can't, cross over, because as we have seen with Helluva Boss, they can cross over into the human realm, into the real world. So what's to say they can't cross potential dimensions and enter into an alternate version of the netherworld, of their home? But this time, instead of being what they recognize as their home, it's the Hazbin Hotel universe and cast of characters. I think that would be an interesting concept to to play around with. And you can do the same thing with the Hazbin Hotel characters. You have the storyline that Charlie is trying to, redeem a lot of sinners, try to, get them the opportunity to go into heaven and stuff like that, and show that, hey, they're not as bad as you think they are. What better way to help really explore that than potentially do a crossover with Helluva Boss? It would be, to me, it'd be, fun to, like I say, fun to mess around with, kind of see what happens. And I'm sure Vizie has thought about this constantly. But the only question I think she and, her team and anybody else would have is, how do you make it happen? How do you set that up where you cross over two very well, beloved shows that, are under her watch, that she is responsible along with her team with, for creating, but on two different platforms? How do you make that work? How do you bring that, into being, where you would take the Helluva Boss cast, cross them over into an episode of Hazbin Hotel that airs on Prime Video, and then later on, and then in return, I should say, later on, you have the Hazbin Hotel cast crossover with Helluva Boss, on YouTube. How would that work? Well, promotional wise, in my opinion, the way they make this work is basically, for a Helluva Boss, it would open the eyes of a lot of people. Like those that don't know about it on YouTube, which I'm sure many do by now. It would open up the eyes. Excuse me. It would open up the eyes of places like A24, Prime Video, and so on, to be like, hey, this is another one of her series. Maybe we should take a shot at this too. And who knows? It might lead to basically, her getting two shows on Prime Video and two shows distributed by A24. You never know. You never know. And then on the other hand, it could show a lot of folks that don't know about Hazbin Hotel being a series on Prime Video, it could, it could show them, hey, here's this other show she has on this other platform, and it may make them want to subscribe to Prime Video if they haven't done it already. Just as though they can check that out. Even if they do a temporary trial, it gives them time to binge the series and check out what, they're missing, what people are talking about. So there's a lot of, advantages to it. And again, storyline-wise, you can go anywhere with it. And you can interconnect them. I mean, some shows that have been under the same content creators, the same studios and all that, have all found a way to be interconnected somehow storyline-wise. They have. I mean, look what Image Comics' Skybound division is doing right now with the Hasbro properties of G.I. Joe and Transformers and others. They're putting them under what's known as the Energon or Re-Energon universe. And they're basically connecting them to various different comics, that they have. Like, they're doing Cobra Commander comics, they're doing Duke comics, and those are G.I. Joe. They have other comics that are based around Transformers. It is a huge undertaking, if you will, a huge undertaking, but it's worth it. It's worth it because you're acknowledging that all of these are within the same continuity, as the other. You're acknowledging that, G.I. Joe is in the same continuity as Transformers. You're acknowledging Transformers is the same continuity as, let's say, if they have the license to them yet, Visionaries, in a sense. So you're going out of your way and saying, hey, this is connected to this and vice versa. And I think, in a way, with a crossover of Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel, you could do the same thing. You could say that there are two different iterations of the nether realm, if you will, of hell itself, the underworld, but they're all happening at the same time. They're all interweaved together, except they're within different dimensions. And you can also set the stage for them potentially crossing over again in the future. And the story could be great. The story could be a great one of how you bring them together, because like I said, Charlie's going to want to find ways to keep redeeming people and all that, but then you have that wild card of Alistair, the one she made a deal with, and it's like, what is he gonna, what role is he gonna play in the second season? And he can be instrumental in the crossover happening. He can be instrumental in making the portal happen. You never know. You never know that there could be, various ways how it occurs. And on the other end, you have, you have the spell book or whatever the book is that's in their possession, in Helluva Boss, that they could look up a spell in there and teleport to another world. But not teleport to another world, but basically think they're teleporting to Earth like they normally would, but then they end up teleporting over into the realm of Hazbin Hotel. There's a lot of different possibilities you can work with on a concept like that. There's a lot of, interesting ways that could work. I mean, one of the more famous crossovers that happened in the late 80s was, Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. And this has always been teased at times, even back in the 60s, and throughout the 70s and 80s of this happening. It's just that people were wondering, okay, if this happens, how are you going to make it happen? How are you going to, make it a reality? How, storyline-wise, what's the plot of them getting, together, like them meeting? And they found a very creative way of it happening. You have Elroy creating a time machine that basically sends the Jetsons into the past, and by accident sends the Flintstones into the future. Basically the hijinks, ensue throughout. And it's a great story. It really, really is a great story. So if they could pull something like that off, which is something fans have been wanting for years, they could do the same here. They can. I mean, look at the 1990s Spider-Man series and X-Men series. Both were done by two different, studios. Saban basically was handling the X-Men series for a while. Marvel Animation was handling the Spider-Man animation. And so when they decided, okay, we're going to cross over X-Men with Spider-Man, they basically gave the designs of the characters to the Marvel Studios and said, created it very similar to what we have on the show, and they did the best they could. But what was interesting is they also kept the characters true to who they were in their own series. But the crossover happened. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You know, a crossover can occur between these two, and you could keep the characters, you know, as they are and everything. You don't you don't even have to change the animation style that much because it's pretty much the same animation style. You know, you might, I mean, yeah, Hazbin Hotel might be on a higher budget animation-wise, but still it's the same style. It's still the same style. And in the end, what it does promotionally is it lets people know, like I mentioned earlier, that, hey, Hazbin Hotel's on Paramount, I mean, not Paramount, but on Amazon Prime, on Prime Video. You want to check it out. You know, log in, if you have a Prime account, you'll log in and check it out at Prime Video. If not, sign into Prime Video, you know, do a trial if you want to, and, you know, take that opportunity with the trial to check out the series. There you go. And then it also promotes otherwise, you know, in reverse, you know, that, hey, Helluva Boss is on YouTube, you know, at this channel and everything. Go check it out. And what it also does, like I said, it also potentially gives Helluva Boss, you know, crossing over with Hazbin Hotel in one of their episodes, and then vice versa with them. It gives, you know, Helluva Boss an opportunity to be seen on a bigger platform, and, you know, distributors like A24 and Prime Video and others to consider, hey, if this is another one of our projects that people love, maybe we should look into that too. But yeah, I think a crossover does need to occur, and I think Vizie has thought about it. And the only question is going to be, how does it, you know, come to be storyline-wise in the future? But let me know what your thoughts are on a potential crossover if it occurs. And until then,